Our 1 o'clock item, consideration of proposal investing in staffing, infrastructure, and technology, and this will be presented by Maria Valadez, Register of Voters, and Department of Register of Voters.
What number is that?
Registrar of Voters, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
No, 6.11, I lied.
Okay, good, got it, thank you.
I don't have to read them.
That's right.
I can read my notes. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Maria Valadez, Registrar of Voters. I'm here to present proposal for investing on our future in the elections. Where do I go to the next slide? This. Why we are here. So, meeting expectations with limited resources. We have to meet all state, federal election laws, and we have to certify an election. Oh, am I too far? No. And we have to certify an election 28 days for a presidential election, and we have 30 days for the other, all other elections to certify an election. In addition, we have to be in compliance with cybersecurity, ADA, language accessibility, and other requirements. So this isn't about inefficiency, it's about capacity. Despite exceptional staff efforts, our limited resources cap what we can process in real time. In 2024, 21 new laws were in effect, which impacted 162 code sections, which means it impacts various processes in the election. This year, the CACO is tracking 87 bills, which 68 of are election related, which means if any of these pass, then processes change again. Between 2020 and now, we've responded to 86 PRAs. That's a lot compared to what it used to be. And it'll probably continue increasing. That's something that's not gonna go away. People are really interested more in elections. It used to be we were, not visible until after 2020, when things changed. So just to give a general idea of where we are with ballot returns. As you can see, the majority of how people vote are by mail. So 56% of the ballots that were returned by mail at the last election consisted of 56%. That was 13,331. So people can mail their ballot as soon as they receive it. We mail it out 29 days before the election, and it has to be postmarked by election day and up to 7 days after to receive it. So the mail trend is kind of slow up until about 2 weeks before the election, and that's when we start receiving more ballots in the office. The drop box has been a good, our second highest rate where people drop off the ballots. We have 6 ballot drop boxes throughout the county, and so people to utilize that. We had a little over 3,500 returned for this last election at the drop boxes. And then at the polls on election day and at our office between E-29 and election day, we had 3,000. So on election day, from the polls, that's about 1,700 or 1,800 that were probably returned through that process. So we didn't get to verify the signatures, open ballots, and count those. So we could only process what we've received through a certain point for the election night reports. Provisional and CVR are smaller. Now that we're allowing the polls staff to call our office to verify that a person hasn't voted their ballot, then they can go ahead and vote in person. But as you can see, that in-person vote is just 10% of who votes at the polls. but we are still required to have all the polling place locations on election day because we're still a polling place county. Hours worked. So I had staff provide how many hours we've worked just from the period of election E-minus 29 days, which was October 7th through certification date. The gray bar shows how many hours we worked in a weekly period, and the period started Monday through Sunday. And then we showed how many ballots we issued during that time through the mail and counter, as well as how many ballots were verified. And then, you know, in addition to the returns, we still have to continue issuing ballots between E-minus 29 to election day, in addition to the mailing out the sample ballot booklets to the same voters that register late or re-register. I wanted to make a note here. On election day, we asked for the phone log. And on election day, we answered over 4,700 calls that day. We had 5 to 6 people manning the phones. You know, a lot of it is, where do I go vote? Where do I return my ballot? Or the poll workers calling in our office to verify that the voter hasn't voted so they could vote in person. So we fielded that many calls, which, you know, when you only have 5 staff members and extra help, it kind of makes it difficult. And then we still have to, you know, help the counter and issue ballots. Our legal mandate. So just like all the counties, we all have the same rules, but we all have different resources. We're focused on speeding up post-election processing always. That's our main priority all the time, making sure that we're, you know, being innovative with making sure with what we have to make processes go quicker. Our 4 priorities include staffing, infrastructure, technology, and support. We handle everything from voter registration, candidate filing, campaign finance, petition signature verification, to ballot tabulation, issuing ballots, returning ballots, signature verification. The complexity has increased, but our staffing and infrastructure have not kept pace. I know we moved into a bigger room from 900 square feet to almost 2,000 square feet. That's usable, workable space. But, you know, with the demands and the vote by mail growing and growing the way it is, it's, you know, we've outgrown that building at this point. Our core proposal, it's targeted to investment to accelerate results. The week after election, we had only processed 681 ballots, and the board interest is for us to produce faster results while complying with state certification timelines. And our current system stretched to the limit. It's not about doing more with less, it's about doing more with what's required. Everything here is carefully prioritized to get the biggest efficiency gains first. So that 681 ballots processed, one of the things that when the day after election, you know, we came in at 5 o'clock in the morning election day, we go home when we're done, and we crawl back in to open back at 8 a.m. The same staff that, you know, worked the day before. We come in and we have to go through all the stuff that the poll workers brought back to the office, which includes all the bags. You know, we have 22 polling place locations, 26 boards, so that's a lot of stuff that we have to clear out of our space, that's our workspace, before we can get back to the processing of ballots. So immediate efficiency gains in my thought process is to accelerate the canvass. I would like to request an elections technician, reclassify one of my specialists to an analyst, and add 6 extra help for canvass shift work. This would allow us to work in shifts, have a morning shift, a midday shift maybe, or an afternoon shift, which would allow us to continue the process versus, the people that are here work their 6 or 8 hours and then they have to go home. And then replace one of our aging ballot scanner. And that's my first thing. These would be the most direct responses to your request for earlier results. The technician will boost IT and mapping, and the analyst will free up operational stuff. They'll be able to work on other stuff that is needed along with what we're required to do with reporting and so forth. It would allow for more hands during Canvas. The new scanner will produce faster, more consistent updates. So we would be able to have more people. So a lot of the processes in elections requires 2 people at a time. So the 2 people that are working on something would have to stop to work on the other thing. So I know we have to work on these processes, and March was the first year that we were required to do weekly reports. So we're getting there. November was our second election that we were required to do this. In the past, we would just do results at the final by certification. We were required to stop to do weekly updates. Our structural stability. So my priority 2 would be to add 1 elections manager, at some future, and add a part-time election specialist. The registrations continue to grow. We have online registration with DMV. People become registered, so we have to process those registrations. So that registration doesn't go down, it goes up. There's also updates, cancellations, there's pre-cancellation notices that were passed and that we had to start doing in 2024. So we have to send pre-cancellation notices to, I believe it's deceased, felons, and conservatorship, and just those 3? Yeah, we have to send pre-cancellation notices to them before we can cancel them. Give them 15 days to respond or not respond, and then we can cancel them. So again, a lot of stuff has increased in our stuff. These roles will improve continuity, reduce burnout, and allow better supervision. A manager increases logistical capacity for shift work. And the part-time specialist, like I said, will also, in addition to voter registration, will fill critical service gaps during peak election cycles. So they'd be working full-time during the election cycle, which the election cycle consists about 90 to 60 days before the election and 30 days after the election once we certify. My third priority, space and tools to keep up. So the signature verification system, based on some of the research we've done, would provide a 20% faster VBM processing. But, with the machine, we need staff to be able to oversee it and run it. The verification is a bottleneck. It will automate even part of that process as that has outsized benefits. However, our current office is too small to securely and efficiently handle expanding these services at the moment, because we looked and our current extra help workspace is between 120 to 150 square feet. The machine that we've looked at could be anywhere between 150 to 200 square feet. So we would reduce our workspace for the extra help even more at this moment if that's something we purchased. I do want to note that there are some voting system funds that we still have, a little over $130,000 that we could utilize to offset the cost for the signature verification system. And I think we have to use the funds before June of 2026. So, but again, we'd have to look at our current space to be able to bring this system in.
What's the price of the system?
We got a couple of different quotes on that, and we're looking at, let's see. Sorry, I have to take off my glasses to read. 240 to 280, and that doesn't include like annual software and hardware maintenance. That'd be in addition to the cost. That would be just the cost to purchase the equipment. One of the other things that our office could use is a van. During the election process or cycle between 29 days before the election through election day, we're required to collect the ballots from the drop boxes. It's twice a week for the first 2 weeks and then 3 times a week the last 2 weeks. So, and then on election day, we have to hire staff to go out and lock those boxes on election day at 8 o'clock. But the people that, the van would be for the 29 days in the office, where we go the twice a week, 3 times a week. Right now, Central Garage has always been helpful with us, but they have like the small little Ford Escorts that when we put those 4 bags, 6 bags, it's pretty tight. We used to borrow a van that they had before, but it's no longer in the pool. So, and then another thing the county should consider is setting money aside for modernization of systems. In 2019, our voting system was decertified, which means we had to go back and purchase a new voting system at that time. And that was over $200,000. I'm sorry, $300,000. So just having money aside, because we never know when, that could be decertified, along with aging equipment, voting equipment. We will be having to replace our printers that we purchased with our voting system, because they'll reach the end of shelf life. So those will have to be replaced. Right now we have about 40 of them, but I think we could replace 30 of them, which would be about a $24,000 cost once we get to that point. Right now, we would just use what we have until we no longer have any extras, and then purchase them, one at a time. But to replace them all, it'd be about $24,000. And then our printers in our office as well, they reach the end of life shelf and they're no longer serviced. So, we'll use them until they no longer work, but it should be noted that, at some point we should designate money in a fund for election voting system replacements. Our fiscal approach, is responsible, phased implementation, prioritizing for long-term savings and efficiency based on internal analysis and state comparisons. And if the board is supportive, I would provide detailed costs, and models would follow. I had in my here that we're not asking for a blank check. We're asking for a green light to move toward responsibly, to what it is you guys feel that would be more helpful to our department. And then to return to your board with more specifics on anything you guys think would be something you would want more information on. This would be a sustainable path forward. It would provide us with the tools to increase capacity. It would build a more resilient, responsive election office, and it would equip us to protect and strengthen public trust. We've stretched existing resources as far as they go. These targeted investments ensure Lake County remains transparent, timely, and trustworthy in our election operations. I respectfully request your support to move forward. Any questions?
Supervisor Pyska?
Yeah, I appreciate you putting this plan together and bringing it to us so that we can be more efficient and better prepared during election season. But I have some questions. So are you asking for 2 new permanent full-time positions?
2.5.
2.5. And are they gonna really be utilized year-round,
Yes.
not just during election season?
No.
Okay.
I mean, we're getting to where there's so candidate filing has become its own thing. Campaign finance is its own thing. We're having to, which, by the way, the campaign finance, we actually automated. But we still have to make sure that we follow up with people that have committees. There's more people running for office than there used to be. And I don't have a number on those, but, they have to file forms 460s, 470s, all of that has to, and if they keep the committees open, we're required to, monitor that and look at those so that if they have any updates that we reach out to the, committees to make sure that we stay in compliance, that we stay within the deadlines, that they're not being late. All the petitions, all the initiatives for the general November election, we had to verify signatures on all of those before they go to the ballot. So in a primary in 2024, and I don't know how many initiatives were on the ballot, but we had to verify signatures for all of those. It varied, 2,000, 3,000 with each petition. So that's 12 petitions that were on the ballot this last election. So we had to verify signatures during a primary. The off years, even though we call it the off year, but the only off year we've had no election was in 2023 and hopefully this year. But in 2021, we had the recall election, and there's a recall process right now for, Governor Newsom, and if there's signatures, we're going to have to verify those signatures. So our odd years, we kind of take in, and everything we endured in 2024, we come back and we sit down and we say, how can we speed up that process? Sometimes we have to implement something in the middle of election, and we do it in a manner and then try to improve upon it. But, after we've had 2 elections, now we're going to go back and we're going to be like, okay, this didn't work. Now we need to improve upon our processes. So having staff dedicated, specialized in certain fields, we're required to have an outreach plan where we have to do more outreach. It just, all of that takes time, and it requires specialized people in the different fields. And it just makes it hard when we're spread thin. I'm having to read 87 bills to kind of see which ones affect and to try to keep up with those to make sure that, hey, if this passes, we have to change our process now. In my informational packet that I put in there, if anybody was able to read to it, there are so many times we have to pivot. Today was +3 days for returning ballots. Next time it was +7. During COVID, it was +17. Requirements that the laws throw at us, and we have to turn around and make sure we comply.
Okay, and then is it 3 different equipment or 3 different systems? The ballot scanner, the signature verification, and the voting system? Is it 3 different systems that need?
Well, the voting system consists of the ballot, the voting system. The scanners are for the voting system.
Okay.
The signature verification system is a standalone system. It allows us to scan the ballots so that staff can, or again, the system, we would set it to where it would validate automatically a percentage of the signatures without us having to manually review them. But, anything that doesn't get verified would still have to be under manual review.
Yeah.
It would also allow us to sort some of the ballots by precinct, but again, that requires you run it through the first time my understanding is you run it through the first time to scan it for signature and then you have to run it back through for signatures verification. It could date stamp, it could open the envelopes. It does a lot of different things depending on what it is we're looking to use it for.
And so we were talking about your equipment and end of life. So I mean, this is one thing that I brought up with the CAO's office and all department heads, and budgeting is planning in the department reserves for having to update equipment. So is that anything that you're currently planning for?
My plan is right now. I'm going to have to talk to Stephen and see when that was going to be part of something that I have to bring back before the board. As of right now, we're okay for the next election cycle, but maybe the fiscal year after that, we need to start talking about.
It seems like anytime you have an investment, like you have to start planning for the end of life for that investment. So, planning, saving, putting in reserves as you go is probably a good practice across the board. Yeah.
While I don't disagree with the planning and saving, general fund departments do not have reserve capabilities. That would be within the main general fund. So like our technology reserve
Okay.
for the whole general fund is what would be the reserve for.
So that's where we should
used
plan
this,
for
just
it
like
there.
It was used for the ERP.
Okay.
But individual departments do not have the ability to throw off a reserve because they're all in the same fund.
Okay. So that's good to know. But it is something that we need to be looking at.
Yes, that's why we have a tech reserve.
That's why we have the technology reserve fund. Okay. And then,
I do have to say that, Stephen has been really good about working with me with questions and answers on these and stuff. And initially that $130,000 that we had set aside could be utilized because it's we get reimbursed 75% of a purchase cost. So, but holding on that money until we really need it, because we actually had talked about it. Initially, the contract had expired, and we reached out to the state and asked if they were going to extend that contract. So it got extended so that we can keep that money before it goes away, because at that moment, it didn't make sense to buy equipment when our current equipment is still working. So, I mean, we're, being fiscally responsible by not spending money and holding on to it until we have to purchase anything.
okay. And then, so the office space, does it work on the off years, your office space currently?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe we could look at expanding during election season, like renting another space or using another.
Well, our central count location is at the office. Moving equipment to other facilities, I don't know. I think that would have to be a plan I'd have to try to figure out. It wouldn't be feasible because our ballots are stored in our room for issuing ballots. Our ballot counting system is in our computer room.
I know, but we just built that out.
I know.
Yeah. Okay, and then.
So again, that's what I'm saying, like, to me, at the moment, if you're asking me, I think staff would be my first request. That would be my first, like, having more staff would allow us to, again, more extra help, because I don't think I included on here, but just requesting more extra help.
Yeah, the extra help is on.
During the season,
Yeah.
so that we can work those different shifts, like.
Okay. And then for the vehicle, again, like, it's hard to justify buying a vehicle for just certain times of year when there is a pool vehicle that sort of works, or maybe there's an investment in a pool vehicle if there's a need for other departments, or maybe just renting it for the season. I think those are some options to explore too. Because I understand, there's this need to expand and contrast throughout the years, and it's trying to find the balance of what makes sense
Right.
in the years when you need the extra staffing and the extra space and the extra equipment, and the years that you don't. So, I'm glad that you brought this to us. There's a lot for us to think about. I think there's a lot of analysis that still needs to go into what these requests really entail. But I think just trying to stay as agile as we can.
Vice Chair.
As I said, last year in 2024 was the first year we had to do the reporting requirements, and it happened to be in March, and then in November, and then I do have to add that we were short-staffed by one permanent employee in November, which when you have knowledge that's not available, and then we have, but I mean, thankfully, we had somebody that had worked with us before that came and helped, but at the same time, we had lost that person that verified signatures at a large quantity amount. So, I mean, under the circumstances, we managed to maintain and continue in doing and meeting the deadlines that are required of us.
Vice Chair.
So as I understand, so it'd be 2.5 full-time plus a reclass. Is that what I'm reading here? A reclassification of 1
Yes.
position plus 2.5 full-time?
Correct.
Were you looking at that, at requesting that like all for next budget year, or would that be something that could be phased in over?
I mean, I think my priority one was to, I think reclassing one position, and if you gave me a part-time position to begin with, I think we could work with that, because that part-time position could work full-time during the election cycle, and then at some point increase. Right now, thankfully, IT does help us with a lot of the stuff that requires certain IT stuff to be done, but it'd be nice to have an in-house IT person to help us with, the ballot design, the hash testing, like all those other things that we're not IT staff members that, but we rely a lot on IT. And I think sometimes we put a big burden on their department, them being so short-staffed as well. But I mean, at some future, an IT staff member and or a supervisor, because, once you get more people, then you need people to help supervise all the extra help that you have and anything else, so.
And so I think with one of the pieces of equipment you were talking about, you said that would, I'm sorry. You said that would basically take up the whole amount of room that
It would take up a big
we have extra
chunk
help
of,
working in?
a big chunk of
So how,
space in that
if we
area.
did purchase, how would we deal with that in the current facility?
It'd be tight.
Okay, well, I appreciate this detailed report. I definitely want to help however we can. I feel a little bit at a disadvantage because I don't know what the budget looks like today. I haven't seen that yet, so I'm assuming you've been talking to Stephen about these, or the budget office, about these requests and seeing what may or may not be able to be worked in. So I just kind of feel like I don't have a lot of info.
I didn't talk to him about the positions I'm requesting at the moment, because I was waiting to get direction from the board. And I know that, with the budget this year, everybody's, kind of having to reduce their budget, which makes it kind of difficult.
And one last question, if we got all this new equipment, the voting system, the scanners, and
Well, it wouldn't be the voting system. We would be setting money aside.
we wouldn't have to
or-
replace that right now?
No. And like I said, the scanners, we would need to replace at least one of our scanners at the moment, because we have 3 scanners, but 2 really are so slow. And so we end up just using the faster scanner during election time.
Okay, and so if we did get whatever equipment we needed, can the same amount of staff run that equipment as what we have now, or is there staffing issues?
We would need to hire extra help, and I mean, we would have to train the extra help. So the 5 permanent staff members are us answering phones on election day. So, because, you have questions on what's my precinct, what's my, versus just simple
So Adam,
questions. So, I mean, that's why it'd be hard. I mean, we're spread thin right now. And so having that additional staff would help us make sure that we're in certain divisions of that process where they could oversee it along with extra help assisting.
okay, so at a minimum, if we got new equipment, we would need at least more extra help to manage that.
Well, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Supervisor Owen?
Well, I'd like to thank you. I know that you've got a really tough job and you've got a really great staff. So I would like to say thank you for what you do. And I think that you're underappreciated.
Thank you.
So I have a question for Stephen, probably. Do you know if with them being in need of additional space, is the public defender's office, is there available space there? No, the new, where we leased the $15,000 a month, that building, is there additional available space there that can maybe house them?
We can look into it, but last we checked, there was still space rentable.
Space rental, oh, I thought we rented the whole,
We rented a whole floor.
oh, okay.
It is three stories.
There's 3 stories, okay.
So not within what PD rented, no.
Oh, okay, no, so all of the space that we rented is taken up, okay. Okay, I was just trying to,
We're currently in a lease, so, and that was a 10-year lease. So our
Okay.
10 years, I think, expires in 31.
okay. And then I was kind of on the line, thinking along the same lines as Jessica, in the essence that during election time, it might be a thought to look into a lease for that month or whatever for a van, opposed to,
I honestly, I mean, as much as I think that only thing that I could foresee us expanding would be to serve the voters on election day. Like we could do a one-day rental and issue ballots for voters on one day at a location, but to open ballots and to signature verification, our system is in our office, and
Sure.
I don't see how that would work.
the
You'd have to have
a lease
like
of a van?
I'm sorry?
A lease rather than a buy on a van? Is what I was
I'm not talking about, I'm just talking about, like, I don't know what part of the processes you would be asking me to move off-site.
Oh, no. I was looking to see if there was enough availability to move your whole, but I didn't know you were
Oh.
a 10-year lease.
Yeah. Oh.
So it was looking for something with a larger footprint to house you. So, but it sounds like that's not
Nothing,
going to.
I don't think anything temporary, in my opinion, would work right. How the systems work, it'd be kind of difficult.
Okay.
I don't see, I mean, if you guys have a suggestion, I mean, I'd be willing to look into that, but it just, I don't know how that would work.
Okay. So the six people on the temporary, that would just be, you stated, just to clarify, so that'd be like 60 to 90 days before the election day, and then 30 days after on the extra help.
The additional, yes.
Yes, the additional help. And then currently, what you're asking for is a classification change on one, and a minimum of a part-time, or one
I mean, if
plus
we had to
part-time?
sit here and compromise on something, that would be,
Yeah.
I mean, not a compromise, sorry, just a request.
Yes,
That would be something that we could work with.
sure.
And at some point, the board would probably, me or the department head, whoever's here, would have to come back at some point, because again, the requirements keep increasing.
Sure.
And
The
we are-
bureaucracy.
And we're scattered pretty thin, I said that I think our department's the first department that's been able to clone people, because we have to wear multiple, I mean, I know a lot of counties do, but I'm here for registrar to, but we do. We clone ourselves to be different hats at the same time, We're working on candidate filing, then we have to turn around and work on vote by mail, even signature verification, whatever it is. So.
So 1.5 new hires and a classification change.
I mean, at least a classification change and a part-time. I don't know what the budget is like. I can't sit here and request, and put a request. It'd have to be something that you guys would have to give me direction on. But, I mean, increasing staff in the department moving forward is something we should really consider.
Perfect,
The
thank you.
expectations from the outside in, the lawmakers make the laws, and we have to implement them, and we do it in the best manner that we have and that we can, based on our current staffing.
Thank you.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Thank you. Thank you for sending out the list and prioritizing them as well. I'm going to go through them one by one real quick. But before that, I just want to say the only reason we're here is because of articles, complaints, and impatience with the process that takes place in order to count ballots and to put out the right information. There is nothing that is incorrect in how you do things or what you do. The integrity of our ballot, integrity of our elections is very strong. And so I just want to make sure to say that we are not solving a problem that doesn't exist. We are looking at being more expeditious in the process to see if we can make people happier about getting the results of either they lost or they won faster. And I'm sure on one side it hurts more to find out faster than the other. But it literally, it's a issue of the 21st century where everybody wants the information now. In fact, I just want to real quick make a statement. Your department, has always taken the full 30 days to certify, 28 days, whatever it is. And now there's a state law that actually forces certification to be more alongside of what Lake County used to do. Folks, other counties used to certify a whole lot earlier, which means that people's ballots would get dropped because they didn't have time to correct them. They didn't have time to do the right procedure for their ballots to be counted. So I've always appreciated that we've done that this way. And in fact, now there's a state law that kind of mimics what it is that we used to do. I think it's good to see updates. So I like that new law as well. I know it's more work on you. And obviously, again, we're going back to the main gist of why we're here. People want thousands in the updates, not the hundreds that we were able to do in the first one. And then it got bigger and larger as things were able to move forward. Within all that, there's the 1% hand count that needs to happen as well in a timely fashion. There's a whole lot of processes that occur within that. So I just wanted to make those statements first. So I'm going to go through the priority list.
Thank you.
I'm not comfortable in the state in which we're in to add more staff. I am comfortable in opening up conversation with our IT department, who already supports the election. He supports all departments, but definitely during the election, there's a heightened support. What can we do to do a larger amount of time to your department outside of just elections? Is there capacity within IT? I'd love to see those conversations and see what's possible, and even bring back to see what's available. Because if by chance somebody that would fulfill the IT GIS, it's not 100% full-time, it's 90, 95, then we would be able to utilize that IT person in other departments and other capacities that would be helpful to the county as well. So I would like to have that conversation just to see where it goes. Yeah. The reclassification, I don't know enough that I think it will help you, but I'm happy to look into it and happy to see what that would look like if there was a reclassification. The extra help, it obviously depends on the dollars that are available. I think that's should be available if there's dollars available for that. All technology, I think I'm interested in. Obviously, you need to have continued access to the same technology you have. We're not abandoning anything, but if there's anything that can help you, even 20%, whether that's to count for the Newsom recall that you were just mentioning, or whether it's to count for the actual ballot, whatever could be helpful to make sure that we can process that faster. Even 20% of 19,000 ballots is going to be a whole lot faster. So I'm happy to look at that, and the price does not seem extreme. I'd love to more know what the annual cost is.
I do actually have that. For the annual software, we're looking at a little over like 12 to 13,000, and the maintenance is about 16 or 24,000.
And they'll get you every little penny that you can. As far as the facility expansion, I don't know enough, but I think there's got to be a way to be able to VPN into your into your facility that you have currently and use whatever facility might be nearby, such as you and I talked about at the Silvera Community Center here in Lakeport. Is that an opportunity? Is that possible? Again, I'd love to see those conversations with your department and IT department and seeing what's possible and what's not possible, because I don't know enough. As far as the van, I just love to, we have SUVs, we have other vehicles, and I would just say we need to have one vehicle where at a specific time frame for an election, it is on hold and it is dedicated to your department, the Registrar of Voters, to make sure you have the means to move around all the ballots in a safe way and the ability to do outreach and whatever your needs are. But I think there's ways to look at a lot of these and make them possible. Obviously, it's going to come down to dollars and cents in the long run, but just wanted to at least place my comments on each one of those items that you brought to us.
I do want to point out that the one thing we could not do off-site would be to scan our ballots. That has to be at our office because that system isn't on VPN or it's not on internet connection. It's a standalone system, so the ballot scanning would have to still be conducted at the office. Like I said, signature verification, we'd have our machine at the office, maybe that part of the process, but we have cubicles for staff to be able to verify the signatures. So it'd be the opening of the ballots. That would be where if we can hire, a lot of staff to be there at once, that would kind of like what we did during COVID where we came down here to open ballots, to be able to expand a little bit more. That would be the only location. Unless we could come to the courthouse and use your room.
Makes it
like we did.
difficult for 30 days.
Does that lease that we have an exit clause? Do we know? That'd be something I'd be interested in knowing, like if
I'm not
if we
sure.
find other space in the next year.
I'm not sure. I'd have to look at it.
Yeah.
And just, it's important to know that we put a little over $75,000 that we invested into that building to accommodate, what we currently have, so.
Anything else? No. All right, so I'll open it up to the public. If there's anyone that would like to speak about this item on the agenda. 6.11. Not hearing any, I'll bring it back to the board. Is there anyone on Zoom? No. All right, I think this is direction, right? Mainly direction. Let's see, do you feel like you have is it direction?
Can I make a statement real quick?
Please.
I'd like to thank my awesome staff, like you guys said, Lourdes, Savannah, Shauna, Julie, and all my other extra help employees and the poll workers. Without them, elections would not be possible. So I want to give them
Thank you.
big kudos.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Maria.
They're the backbone to my office, and my department, so.
Thank you for that, and thank you for the work you do. Did we have a consensus on direction?
Well, I want to say where I'm at. I feel like I'd like to, I don't feel like I can go with the direction that's recommended here until I'd like to see a report with what the costs of all of this is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Come back to us, because I feel, while I want to help however I can, I feel like I don't have enough information and not knowing where the budget's at right now. And I think we're right in the middle of working on the budget, so that's a good time to try to get these costs to figure out what may or may not be possible this year or in future years. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I understand these priorities, but I'm interested in looking at how we can be flexible with what we already have, or short-term rentals, or, like I said before, having the ability to expand and contract. Even without looking at the budget, we can't do all of these things. So I think more information is needed on the staffing piece of this. and what could be leveraged with other departments that we may have. I think there's ways that we could look at that too.
I know that, did you have anything else to add, or, no?
I said my piece in the specifics. I'm open for hearing back about technology. I'm worried about adding positions. It seems to be in contrast to what we're attempting to do. As far as the extra help, I think that's always there. It's just whether the money is available. So I don't think we need to say much about that.
I would like to say one thing about the
Let's
extra
do-
help. That's one-time money, so that's not the same thing as like a new, a
Budget,
full-time position.
budgeted
So
item.
That's much easier to come up with than ongoing revenue.
And the equipment is one time, except for the ongoing maintenance. And so that would, we still need to look at those costs for the year.
When was the deadline for the spending of the money before you lose it for the equipment?
I believe I have to submit June of 2026.
Oh,
The
okay, so
reimbursement?
it doesn't, okay. So we're still solid right now? Okay.
I did get 2 quotes from 2 different vendors on the signature verification system. But I don't know if you guys need me to go through that technology, what do you call it?
Differences in them?
Technology Group Committee.
Yeah.
Oh, the technology committee, yeah. That would go through that, right?
If I need to go through that, or, I mean, because one of the vendors is willing to come and do a presentation to the board, so you guys can kind of see what the automation process would be for that part of it.
I think that helps, and what helps for me is just seeing the return on investment, like whatever, like you've given us these solutions and the results that you want, and then I like what Vice Chair had said about getting us some more information on on what it's going to look like, the cost and whatnot. But my decision will be based on return on investment, and a lot of what you've already said that will help. You're finding solutions that will help, expedite or have more solid results. So yeah, I think that would help, and for a presentation, so that we can know which quality that we're getting for that device.
Okay,
if you will.
I can reach out to one of the vendors, so, I mean, at least you guys would get an idea of what the systems do. As far as the extra help, that's kind of a challenge sometimes, because not a lot of people want to work extra help and on call and during certain timeframes. But, I mean, we're going to do our best to start advertising if we get the funds, and even, because it makes it hard to find people that are only willing to work for a certain period of time, or, today you're 4 hours, tomorrow you're 6, and then you're off the following 2 days or whatever. So, I mean, as long as I get the go-ahead to increase my extra help, I can start looking for more people. Once, I provide numbers to give you guys an estimate of that. And as far as the positions, that'd probably be something that I'd have to sit down and, because there's not a position that's an analyst. That's what I'm kind of was looking for. It's not a created one that is for election specific, but I'd like it to be election specific. Because, we are a specialized department.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Yeah, I was just going to mention again, I'm open for the reclassification to hearing back. What does that look like? What does that mean financially? And I also hope that we can engage and open up conversation about the possibility of being offsite and what can work, what doesn't work, as well as engaging with IT to see what more capacity is within IT to better engage with, not better engage, that's not the right word, but to engage more with your department, since you seem to be requesting and saying there's a need for that, for that type of expertise.
Right. For the time, what we're talking about for the building, I just want clarification. So you guys are looking for us to, like, the 29 days before, and like through certification, like look for a facility that would accommodate like more workers? Is that where we're?
I think this is a conversation we can have at the Space Committee.
Is that what we're talking about? Like,
And I think it starts with IT to see if it's possible. If it's not possible, then it's a waste of time to have a conversation with the Space Committee.
Yeah, but
if she
Shane's,
can't leave her site.
yeah, but Shane's on the space committee.
He is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because, we can't just pick up a lot of our systems and go. We need to make sure that we have, because it's, voter data that it would be like a satellite location, I guess, where we would have to have.
And I
Set
bet,
up.
I bet there's a flexible way to make
yeah.
something happen. I get it that you're not online for safety and security reasons.
I think that would
but
be my
maybe
biggest.
that might actually mean you can move it around to the next site because you are not connected to something. So I don't know. I think the conversation is worthy just to see, can we accommodate a more comfortable space during high intensity time?
Okay. And would that conversation come back with you guys and IT, or do I have that conversation with IT?
Sounds like it would be with the space
I
committee.
think it goes to the
Committee.
Space committee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And we have a meeting scheduled already for next month, so if you contact Lars, he's the one that sets up the,
So have me set up something with IT? Okay.
I think,
Or if
The
they're
Space
listening, let's
Committee.
put it on there.
Space
Let's
That's
put her
what I
on there.
and we
If
can,
you're listening, Lars.
Lars, put me on the
he's
agenda,
probably
please.
listening.
Okay.
Huh?
And go ahead.
Yeah, so with the FTEs and budgeting for an election, maybe that's where we look at the budget and what you think you might need when you're putting that budget together.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Well, like you had a budget for last year's election and you had FTEs, or I'm sorry, not part-time. You had some extra help.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
And so put that in the budget. So that, is that,
I have it in the budget. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
when you're budgeting for an election, that's a good place to put those numbers in for your extra help.
Okay. So do I update my current budget that I submitted and give you new numbers for extra help?
Well, I don't think we have an election this year, right?
We do in June.
Okay, for next year, right, so.
June is technically.
This
Oh, that's
fiscal-
Oh, right.
June is
This-
technically
Yes.
this
that's
next
right.
fiscal year.
Okay, so so I think that's what you would look at.
And when I was talking with the director, we were going to change that at mid-year depending on how things worked out. So yes, we can talk about it.
Well, okay, let me think, sorry. So the next fiscal year we're talking about, yeah, would be our June election for this,
Right.
yeah, 25, yeah. Okay.
Supervisor Owen?
And Stephen, would it be you to check in on the contract to see if there was I know that it was mentioned that the current facility, it's a 10-year contract, so whether there's an out, as Supervisor Rasmussen had asked?
We do have a version of the contract, so Public Services would also have a version, but we will take a look.
Check
at
that?
this.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe in space.
Yeah, and the Space Committee will
Yeah,
get that.
perfect, thank you.
And I just brought that up because obviously in '26, we're going to be talking about what to do with the fourth floor, so there could be a lot
Yeah.
of
Yep.
different changes going on that could be considered.
Yeah.
All right. All right. All right, we good?
Okay, thank you. So am I coming back to the board, or am I just meeting with these other, or
So
just to make
once-
sure, I just want to make sure
So
I'm,
once you meet with space, we'll figure from there and then budget,
Okay.
that you'll meet up with Stephen to adjust your budget, and then I think with space, we'll figure out from there if you need to do a presentation and go from there. Does
And
that sound
maybe
about right?
HR with the extra position.
Oh, that's right. And then,
And the voting machine demonstration.
okay,
Bring it
I'll
back.
reach out. And that could be its own presentation, right?
right.
And if there's any differences between the two models?
I mean,
Whichever one you do.
I got quotes on both of those, but just, I mean, if I bring in one, would you want me to bring in both veterans?
I would say let us know the differences.
I think just having something that shows the differences. If you have both that can present, that'd be great, but if only one does, have the opposite to show which one you prefer and why it would be auspicious. Vice Chair?
Well,
I just-
didn't I have to go through a I'm sorry, wouldn't I have to go through an RFP?
Yeah, that wouldn't really follow purchasing procedures. We would have to go through an RFP
Okay.
process.
Take back what
I was just thinking of having somebody come in and do a demonstration
So let's,
so that you guys would
let's
be
get-
familiar with the
let's
process.
get you to get with admin to help with that,
Okay.
that process.
In essence, who they select through the RFP process, that would be the perfect one to give the
All right.
presentation.
Perfect.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
Yeah, just before we close, I just wanted to mention that, for the record, that we had gotten a public comment about this
Yeah.
item this morning that, without reading the whole thing, essentially was encouraging us to look at options to, support the registrar in future
Oh, that's
elections
right.
and things like that.
Yeah, that's right. It was in the public comment. Thank you
Yes.
for, thank you.
I just wanted to mention it for the public's information.
That helps.
Right here.
Oh, Supervisor Spatier.
Sorry, that did remind me of something, and I know it's more work, but if it's possible to fit in, I don't know when the last time was that you went to high schools to do any kind of presentation, but I am certain if you can let some of the students know that they get paid to be out of school, to be part of elections, that you might just find some extra help there as well.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, some of the schools require, because of the age, the work permits, they're not allowed to work beyond a certain time. And it's up to the district to allow them to work in addition to, the parents. But I know in one occasion, we did have a student willing to work and the superintendent shot it down because they couldn't work beyond a certain time frame. So, we've reached out to the schools. We could reach out to the schools and see if it could be part of their, community service type of stuff. I don't know.
That's funny, because they could do 8 hours of community service anytime, and they don't get
But they can't work
restricted, but as
beyond a
soon as you
certain
pay them-
time. So polls close at 8 and they'd be required to stay there until they're done. So that could be 11, 12. So I don't know those labor laws for that part of it. And that was kind of something that the superintendent had mentioned. So that we'd be in violation of. So
All right.
Makes no sense.
Well,
I don't know.
It's a state law that they're allowed to do that. Anyways.
anyways. Thank you very much. Is there anything else, or are we good? Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Maria, for that.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Maria.
follow up with the...
And thank you to the
groups.
staff
Yeah.
for coming with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.